All right, everyone, buckle up, because today we are diving headfirst into one of the most talked about characters in World of Warcraft lore,
Oh, absolutely.
Sylvanas Windrunner.
Yeah, the forums are overflowing with opinions on her fate.
It's unreal. We are talking stacks of threads.
And things get pretty heated, let me tell you.
Oh, they get passionate, for sure.
Very passionate.
Some players are fuming.
Definitely, and for good reason.
Others are, well, maybe not so much fuming, as just really, really confused.
Yeah, her story has taken some wild turns.
It has. And her actions, well, they've had a major impact on the entire World of Warcraft.
Absolutely, she's a real game changer, literally and figuratively.
I'm so glad you're here to help us break all this down.
Happy to be here, ready to dive in.
So for those who may have missed a chapter or two in the Sylvanas saga, let's do a super quick recap.
Sounds good, set the stage.
Okay, so we've got Sylvanas Windrunner, former Ranger General of Silvermoon.
One of the most skilled archers in all of Azeroth.
That's right.
A true legend.
Then she becomes the Banshee Queen of the Forsaken, leading the undead.
A complex and often misunderstood faction.
Definitely.
With their own unique struggles.
And let's not forget, she even became War Chief of the Horde for a time.
A controversial period, to say the least.
Understatement of the year, maybe even the decade.
No kidding, her reign had a lasting impact on the Horde.
And honestly, on the entire game world.
For sure.
Now, the big question that everyone's wrestling with is, well, does her punishment fit her crimes? And is there even a chance for redemption?
Right, those are the core issues driving all these passionate debates.
And boy, are there opinions. Presto Daggerspine, for example, they went all in, listing Sylvanas' greatest hits. And let me tell you, it's not a pretty picture.
Oh, I bet. What did they highlight?
Well, they mentioned the attempted genocide of the Gilneans and Darnassans.
Ugh, those are some heavy accusations.
Right. And then there's the whole betrayal of the Alliance and the manipulation of the Horde.
Yeah, not exactly minor infractions.
Definitely not. We're talking major moral and ethical violations.
We need some context here, because these events, they really shook the foundations of the World of Warcraft.
Big time.
So let's start with the attempted genocide.
The big one.
This refers to Sylvanas' use of the plague during the war.
Horrific stuff.
It was a weapon of mass destruction, completely indiscriminate.
Just devastating.
The plague wiped out countless lives.
And it left a permanent scar on the land.
It did.
Then you've got the betrayal of the Alliance.
Oh, this one's a tangled web.
So tangled. It involved a series of events.
Years in the making, really.
Yeah, culminating in Sylvanas basically saying, peace, nah, I've got my own agenda.
Which, as you can imagine, didn't sit well with the Alliance.
Nope, not one bit.
It shattered what little trust remained between factions.
And finally, we have the manipulation of the Horde.
Sylvanas played the Horde like a fiddle.
Oh, she did.
She was constantly acting unilaterally, disregarding the other leaders.
Yeah, like Bane Bloodhoof and Lorthar Martharon, they were basically sidelined.
She made decisions that impacted the entire Horde without their consent.
Not cool.
Not cool at all.
And all of this, it really hit players hard.
It goes beyond just lore.
It does.
It affects how players feel about the game world.
Right, their emotional connection to it.
Baron Najatar even said they stopped playing Horde characters because of Sylvanas' leadership.
I can totally understand that. It makes sense.
People felt like their faction was being misrepresented.
Yeah, their identity within the game world was challenged.
And that can be a really jarring experience.
For sure, it forces players to reevaluate their allegiances and confront the moral complexities of the game.
Which can be a good thing, actually.
In some ways, yes.
It encourages players to think critically about the world they're inhabiting.
Right, it's not just about following a storyline blindly.
It's about engaging with the nuances and the difficult questions.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes World of Warcraft so compelling.
It's more than just a game.
It's a world with real depth and complexity.
But there's another layer to this whole debate about Sylvanas' punishment and whether she can ever truly be held accountable.
Oh, right, because where is she now?
Exactly. Like Macaulay Frostwolf pointed out, Sylvanas isn't exactly kicking back in Orgrimmar or Stormwind.
Nope, she's not exactly accessible to the Alliance or the Horde.
She's way beyond their reach.
Literally in another realm.
This is where it gets tricky.
It does.
Because, well, she's in the Shadowlands now.
The realm of the dead.
Right, a whole different set of rules apply there.
It's a place of cosmic forces and ancient powers.
And her sentence, being bound to free souls from the Maw, that was delivered by the Arbiter, right?
That's right. The Arbiter is this incredibly powerful entity who judges the souls of the departed.
So essentially, Sylvanas is serving a cosmic sentence, not a mortal one.
Precisely.
Which means the Alliance can't just march into the Shadowlands and arrest her.
Nope. The traditional forms of justice, they don't really apply here.
And that fuels the debate even further.
Absolutely, because some players feel like this cosmic punishment, it doesn't really equate to true accountability for the very real harm she caused in the mortal realm.
So we've established that Sylvanas has done some truly awful things, and the punishment she's received, while significant on a cosmic scale, hasn't necessarily satisfied everyone.
Definitely.
But then comes the really, really tough question.
The big one.
Can she be redeemed?
Yeah.
Is there any coming back from the things she's done?
That's where the opinions really diverge.
It's fascinating to see how some players are holding on to that hope of redemption,
They're looking for a glimmer of light.
while others are just like, nope, not a chance.
They're basing their views on past experiences.
Right, on how Blizzard has handled character arcs before.
And let's be honest, there's a history there.
For sure. So let's break down those two sides, starting with the hope for redemption.
Okay, sounds good.
Ainder Argent Dawn makes a really interesting point.
What's that?
They remind us that Sylvanas has her soul back now.
Ah, that's a key detail.
Remember, she was without it for a long time, which might explain some of her, shall we say, less than heroic actions.
Right, the whole half a soul situation.
Exactly. And Ainder Argent Dawn's theory is that maybe now, with her whole soul restored, she can actually change. You know, maybe she's burdened by guilt and wants to make amends.
It's a thought-provoking idea.
It is.
It opens up a whole philosophical can of worms about identity and moral responsibility.
It really does. Like, does having only part of your soul absolve you of accountability?
And can someone truly transform after such a profound experience?
Yeah, like, is that even possible?
The game doesn't give us clear answers.
It's up to us to grapple with those questions.
Which is part of what makes this so engaging.
Absolutely.
It forces us to think critically.
On the flip side, we've got Gene Sola Airy Peak, and they are not buying this whole soul-searching redemption thing.
Oh no, they're skeptical.
Super skeptical.
I wonder why.
Well, they think Blizzard is going to pull a fast one.
Oh, interesting.
Like, they believe Blizzard will inevitably force a redemption arc for Sylvanas simply because she's a popular character. They even predicted that everyone's going to be expected to just forgive and forget, which, let's be honest, could feel really forced and unearned.
Yeah, it's a valid concern.
It is, and it highlights a tension that exists in online games like World of Warcraft.
Between player agency and developer control.
Right.
Players invest so much in these worlds and their characters and in the stories.
It's more than just a game for many people.
Exactly. It's an escape, a community, a place where they can truly be themselves.
So when a narrative decision feels like it undermines their experiences or their sense of justice.
It can lead to frustration.
Absolutely.
And even a sense of distrust.
Which brings us to the heart of this deep dive.
The core of the Sylvanas debate.
Is she a villain who deserves punishment? Or is she a victim of circumstance who might still find redemption?
And how do we reconcile her past actions with whatever her future holds?
It's a tangled mess, but it's a fascinating one.
It is.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Oh, there's so much more to unpack.
We haven't even touched on Tyrann's choice, Balloon's involvement, or that crazy prediction about a cinematic with Sylvanas and Illidan fighting side by side.
All that's coming up next.
So stay tuned, folks, because this deep dive is about to get even deeper.
Oh yeah, buckle up. And that's why these conversations about Sylvanas are so captivating. They really get you thinking.
Absolutely. It's like we're peeling back layers of the World of Warcraft. Not just the lore, but like the moral and philosophical core of it all.
Exactly. It's about more than just who wins a battle or what happens in a quest line. It's about grappling with the consequences of actions and the possibility of change, even redemption.
And speaking of redemption, we were just talking about how some players believe Blizzard will inevitably force a redemption arc for Sylvanas.
Right, that she'll get a get-out-of-jail-free card because she's a fan favorite.
Exactly. But there's another huge piece of the Sylvanas puzzle that we haven't even touched on yet.
Oh, you mean Tyrann Whisperwind?
Yes. The Night Elf leader, she's arguably the character most affected by Sylvanas' actions.
Absolutely. Sylvanas' war crimes had a devastating impact on the Night Elves.
And Fortuna Sentinels brought up a point in the forums that really made me stop and think.
What was that?
Well, they pointed out that Tyrann actually had Sylvanas at her mercy. Like, she could have ended it all right then and there.
Oh, wow. That's intense.
It is. But she didn't. She chose to spare Sylvanas, and apparently this was on the direct order of Elune, the Night Elf goddess.
Whoa, that's a game changer.
Right. It's like divine intervention just swooped in and threw a wrench in everything.
That's bound to spark some controversy among players.
Oh, it did, big time. Some players felt like it undermined Tyrion's agency, especially after all she'd been through. I mean, Sylvanas burned down Teldrassil, the Night Elf World Tree. That was a horrific act of war. And many players fully expected Tyrande to deliver justice.
I can understand that perspective.
Yeah, it is a head-scratcher at first glance. Like, why would Elune intervene to save Sylvanas of all people?
Well, to understand that decision, we have to consider Elune's role in Night Elf society.
Okay, explain it to me like I'm a newbie to Azeroth.
Sure. Elune is more than just a goddess to the Night Elves. She's a fundamental force that guides their beliefs, their actions, their whole way of life.
She's like the ultimate authority.
Exactly. So for Tyrande, defying Elune's command would be unthinkable, even if it went against her own desires for vengeance.
So even though it was incredibly difficult, Tyrande ultimately chose to obey her goddess.
It's a complex situation, to say the least.
And it adds a whole new layer to the Sylvanas saga. Now we've got players debating moral quandaries, cosmic punishments, and divine intervention.
It's like a philosophical thriller set in a fantasy world.
Right, and it goes even deeper than just whether a fictional character should be forgiven or punished.
Oh, absolutely. It raises questions about faith, free will, and divine intervention in a world where gods and cosmic forces actively participate in events.
It really makes you think about the nature of good and evil and whether there's even a clear line between the two.
It highlights the depth and richness of the World of Warcraft universe, how it can tackle these complex themes that resonate with our own lives.
Speaking of thought-provoking scenarios, remember Gerald Uther's prediction? They claim there's going to be a cinematic with Sylvanas and Illidan fighting side by side.
Oh yeah, that was a wild one.
Now that would be an epic team-up, to say the least.
Given their histories, it's hard to imagine them working together.
Illidan, the demon hunter, ostracized for his unconventional methods, but ultimately a key figure in the fight against the Burning Legion.
The complex character for sure.
And Sylvanas, well, we've already spent a good chunk of time unpacking her long and winding journey.
From Ranger General to Banshee Queen to, well, whatever she represents now.
It's hard to pin her down.
If we try to fit this prediction into the larger narrative, it could suggest a potential shift in Sylvanas' role.
Like maybe she's being positioned as a force for good, even if she's a complex and flawed one.
It's possible, but wouldn't that play right into the good girl redemption arc that Jean Sola Airy Peak predicted?
Oh, you're right. They were pretty skeptical about that whole idea.
This is where the tension between player expectations and developer intentions becomes really apparent.
Blizzard might be trying to craft a nuanced redemption story for Sylvanas, but it's a delicate balancing act.
It has to feel genuine.
Otherwise, it could backfire and alienate players even further.
The execution is crucial.
If they can convincingly portray Sylvanas' internal struggles, her remorse, her efforts to atone for her past.
And maybe it could work.
But if it comes across as rushed or superficial,
like they're just trying to sweep her crimes under the rug,
then it's going to fall flat.
It needs depth, real growth.
It raises another big question. What would a genuine redemption arc for Sylvanas even look like?
Given the magnitude of her crimes, is true atonement even possible?
That's the million-dollar question.
And it's one that the World of Warcraft community will continue to debate.
Which is what makes this whole discussion so fascinating.
Absolutely. It's not just about a video game.
It's about exploring the complexities of morality, accountability, and the possibility of change.
And it's about grappling with these very human questions through the lens of this fantastical universe.
Which brings us to another crucial aspect we haven't really explored yet. The impact of Sylvanas' actions on the various factions of Azeroth.
Oh, right, how they would react if she were to return.
Now that is a juicy topic.
The forums would explode.
Just imagine Sylvanas stepping foot back on Azeroth. The reactions would be off the charts. Okay, so imagine this. Sylvanas is back in Azeroth. What happens next?
Yeah, it wouldn't be a peaceful return, that's for sure.
Understatement of the century. Presto Daggerspine made it very clear in their post.
Oh yeah, what did they say?
They basically said both the Horde and the Alliance have every right to be, well, less than thrilled about her showing up again.
Yeah, there's no love lost there.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
For the Alliance, it all comes down to justice.
Right. They want accountability for what happened, especially for the burning of Teldrassil.
It would be really tough for them to forgive and forget.
Absolutely, especially for someone like Jen Greymane.
Oh yeah, he's got a huge score to settle with Sylvanas.
She played a direct role in the death of his son and the attempted genocide of the Gilneans.
Yeah, that's not something you just let slide.
Nope, not a chance.
Now the Horde, That's a bit more complicated.
Oh yeah, way more nuanced.
Some Horde members might actually welcome her back,
They see her as a strong leader who fought for their survival.
even if her methods were morally questionable.
Exactly, but then you've got the other side of the Horde, those who would be furious.
Right, those who remember her manipulations and betrayals.
They remember how she was willing to sacrifice Horde lives to achieve her own goals.
Her actions caused a lot of division within the Horde.
Oh, absolutely. Figures like Sarfang rebelled against her leadership.
So even if she returned to the Horde, it wouldn't be a smooth reunion.
Nope, there'd be a lot of tension, a lot of baggage to deal with.
And then there's the Forsaken, her own people.
Yeah, they were fiercely loyal to her, but after everything that's happened,
Who knows how they feel now?
it would be interesting to see how they would react.
Imagine that, a leader returning to people who aren't sure if they want her back.
It would be a tense situation for sure.
Talk about an awkward homecoming.
Awkward doesn't even begin to describe it.
But it makes you wonder, maybe a true redemption arc for Sylvanas wouldn't even involve coming back to Azeroth.
That's an interesting thought.
Like maybe her path to atonement lies somewhere else.
Perhaps she needs to stay in the Shadowlands, working to fix the cosmic damage she caused.
Yeah, a redemption focused on the greater good rather than individual forgiveness.
That would definitely be a unique take on the redemption trope.
It would give her a chance to confront her past actions in a more direct way.
It would force her to face the consequences of her choices.
So after all this, all these deep dives and debates, what have we learned about Sylvanas Windrunner?
I think the biggest takeaway is that she's a testament to the power of complex storytelling in video games.
She makes us think, she challenges our assumptions.
She's a character who forces us to confront tough questions, moral gray areas, and the fact that actions have consequences.
She leaves a lasting impact, whether you love her or hate her.
And her future. Well, that's still a mystery.
But one thing is certain, World of Warcraft will never be the same after Sylvanas Windrunner.
Her presence, or even the memory of her actions, will continue to shape the narrative.
That's the end of our Sylvanas deep dive, folks.
We hope you've enjoyed this journey through the World of Warcraft forums and all the complex issues they bring up.
We've explored the debates, the moral dilemmas, and the possibility of redemption.
But now, we turn it over to you.
What do you think lies ahead for Sylvanas?
If you were writing her story, what path would you choose for her?
What would true redemption look like for the Banshee Queen? Let us know your thoughts.